right, so let's use this Shapton Glass Stone 7. I'm excited to test this puppy out. And the knife we are going to sharpen today is a Gyuto. It is a Japanese chef's knife, and I believe this guy is 210 millimeters, and the knife steel is HAP40. I don't know a lot about HAP40. I haven't had a lot of experience with it. I hear it sometimes compared to M4 and its steel composition, but I know it will hold an edge for a long time. But the only issue I can see with a chef's knife like this is it's not stainless. I can't remember how much chromium there is in it, but not a ton. So it's something that you probably would want to oil after use, or make sure you definitely dry very well. The first thing we're going to do is dull this knife. So I've got the stone right here, and we are just going to carefully dull this as much as we can. Just for my hand safety, we'll do that. Add a little wood to it. All right. Let's see. Yeah, she's definitely struggling a lot more now. So it will roughly cut, but it is pretty well dulled now. Pretty decently. All right. Let's see how it will do with paper towel. Yeah, won't cut paper towel. It's a beautiful knife. I'm very excited to use this with the Shapton Glass Stone 7. And this is like my makeshift stand to make this taller. When I sharpen, I generally like to stand, so I had to give some more height because this table wasn't tall enough. All right, so what we're gonna start off with is the 25 micron, and that is about a 600 grit. And the great thing about Shapton is with a lot of their stones, they're splash and go, and this is no different. Let me just grab some paper towel to be able to dry off whatever I need to dry. All right. So an interesting aspect about this knife that I'm sharpening, it is a single beveled knife. So it's actually the second one technically. There was a pair of these. One was a petty knife. I had never sharpened a single beveled knife, so that's what this is. Well, let's get started. And as you can see, we are already removing a nice amount of material. So by the feel of this, just from the start of this, it feels, if the tactile feel is good, it is pretty smooth feeling for a 600 grit. One thing I'd mention while unboxing this is that, one disadvantage there might be with a stone of this size, or with these stones of this size, and it feels pretty good to me. They're a bit smaller, they're not an 8x3 by any means, but they don't feel weird. Like, they don't feel difficult to sharpen. It doesn't feel like the knife doesn't have enough space to be sharpened, so that's good. Wow. Okay, so I don't know how many passes I just did, maybe 3, something close to that. I already have a pretty decent burr on this knife. Yeah, that cut very, very fast, especially this knife steel. Not saying that this knife steel is like the hardest knife steel on the planet. I actually don't know what this is Rockwell at, but I'd imagine it's decently hard. But yeah, that formed a burr very quickly. Very, very quickly. So the tactile feel, when we talk about that, it feels great. It feels just very smooth, luxurious. Has a very nice feel to it. Yeah, I can't complain. Definitely. For a 600 grit, say it feels maybe slightly, like slightly more than 600 grit. I've been sharpening with the Nanowatch Ocera series stones, and their 600 feels a bit more coarse maybe, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, how it feels per se. We'll see how the knife edge turns out. But it feels good. Either way, it feels good. Feels very nice. And it definitely is removing material quickly, which is very useful. A 600 grit is just a great starting point stone, especially if you don't have like an insanely dull knife. Let's feel how this edge is getting. Still some work to be done at the bottom towards the heel. Let's see what we're doing to this edge. Looking good. Whew. I think we are ready to move on to our next stone, which is about a 2500 grit. 2500 grit is always going to be very, very nice. Produces a very slicey, beautiful edge for sure. That one snugged right up in there. So yeah, overall, first impressions, very nice kit. This stone holder is not moving at all, especially on this plastic tub. And it just feels stable, feels of high quality. The stone removed metal very quickly. It's a very nice setup. And here we go. Now the whole concept with sharpening with finer stones is you just lighten up the pressure. So I'm not going to use the pressure that I was using with the 600 grit, and I wasn't using a ton of pressure, but something to keep in mind when you move up a progression in sharpening, especially when you're getting to finer stones. 2500 grit is a fine stone, so I just want to use basically the weight of my fingers on the knife, and that's it. And I'm just barely, all I'm doing is pushing it back and forth, so basically pushing it and pulling the knife forward. So the feel of this stone feels very, very nice as well. Just smooth. Just absolutely smooth. Doesn't even feel like it's doing anything. So smooth. We are already forming a decent burr. especially towards the top of the knife. Definitely don't rush the process, just keep sharpening the knife until you get a burr. Now, if you don't have a lot of experience, there could be some aspects where you're not forming a burr, which usually the reason you're not forming a burr, I would say two things it could be, is you're not using a good abrasive for the stone, so that could be you're not using the right grit level, and you also might not be using a high enough angle for the knife. I think you probably hear how smooth this is just by listening to it. I mean, this thing is smooth as butter. All right. Wet this a little bit more. Do a pass or two more and be done with this stone. All right, let's move on to the 30,000 grit, or the over 30,000 grit. How much it is, I do not know. Clean up the stone, dry it slightly. All right, that was the 2,500 grit. Test sharpness really fast. Yeah, she's sharp. And why not add a nice polish? Yeah, the stone is super hard, as you can tell. That water just was beating up very, very much. That was funny. All right. Let's see how the 30,000 or over 30,000 grit stone feels. This ought to be interesting. Just want to lock in that angle. Very nice feeling. This is a stone that you just want to, just the weight of the knife basically. You are just polishing that very refined edge that you've created with the previous stones. Yeah, I'd have to say all of these stones feel pretty fine, or they all have a very similar feedback. Just very, very smooth. Definitely some of the most smooth stones for feedback I've used. If you've never used a Japanese knife, you are missing out and you need to try one out. You can actually get them for fairly inexpensive. They're fairly inexpensive on some websites with good quality. I mean, something like this is going to cost you a little bit more. A chef's knife, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you could get like a petty knife, which is a paring knife basically. They call it a utility knife. And those are great. There's nothing wrong with those at all. And if you like smaller knives anyway, depending on what you like in the kitchen, I like to have a chef's knife and a paring knife. It's about the two knives that get me by. I don't need anything else technically, even though you could use a chopper or some other types of knives. Right. Yeah, that brought up the polish very nicely, as it is intended to. Let's feel sharpness. It just feel nice. I don't know if the camera will pick up the polish on the edge. Assuming it won't, but maybe you can see that. Maybe not. She's polishing up nice. Spend a little more time on this, and then we'll be done. All right. Do a little strapping. We'll see how this turned out. First time using these Shapton Glass Stones. As I said, they're a little bit smaller, but you know, they did not even feel that awkward at all with sharpening the chef's knife. And that chef's knife's pretty large. Like I said, I think it's a 210 millimeter. It's a pretty large chef's knife, but it felt very, very good the whole time. Now this strap has no compound on it. It's just a regular, I think, Vegetan leather strap. I did that because I wanted to show you what kind of edge you can get with just a normal strap with no compound. Now obviously I have straps loaded with compound that I really enjoy, but I like to show that some of those things aren't necessary per se. They're just kind of bonuses. All right. Let's see what kind of edge we've got. Look at the polish myself. Looks nice. Well, let's see how well she cuts. Let's check out the sharpening, see how well I did for my first time with these stones. Right. Let's get some paper here. Let's see what we got here. Wow, that is super, super smooth. Yeah, that is a smooth, nice cut. Very, very nice. Yep, she has a very, very fine edge. It has such a smooth, I mean, it just is effortless to cut through. Man, what a beauty. Well, I would say very high quality stones for sure, and definitely a very high quality blade as well. All right, I'm going to actually change the camera angle and we'll cut up some fruit and see how that is. Maybe an onion or something too. So is the Shapton Stone 7 kit worth your time? From my initial impressions of just sharpening this guy, I would say yes. The way it cut through paper was crazy, so I want to see how it's going to cut through some fruits and vegetables, but I am very, very impressed with how keen that edge is, and it sharpened HAP40 steel, as you can see in the video, as quick as it did. It formed a burr within about 2 to 3 passes. That's very quick cutting, which is always nice. I don't like sharpening stones that take like 8 to 10 passes to get a burr. But let's test it on this tomato and see how she cuts. Wow. That is nice. Yeah, it is just bites right in with no effort. I can just basically use the weight of the knife and drag it across, and it just cuts it. That is beautiful. Very, very keen edge and just razor sharp. Well, I am very impressed. I'm not shocked, but I'm very impressed. I've used Shapton stones before, and they obviously have a good name for a reason. See how an old orange cuts. That's just crazy. That is just nice. It's just so effortless. As you can just see, I just just let the knife just sit on it and just drag it right through. Always be careful if you're gonna do this. Ooh, I went through the whole thing. Yeah, guys, it's very, very nice. What a beautiful knife. Beautiful sharpening stones. Definitely very happy with this. All right. Just gotta dry some of that off. These off. Go. Wow. That is nice. It's a very, very hard onion, and it is so buttery smooth and wonderful to cut right through. Well, there you have it. She is a beaut. Well, in conclusion, I think we have a real winner here. The Shapton Stone 7 kit is definitely worth your time and money. The stones, like I said, the only thing that you might struggle with is the stones are a slight bit smaller than some other sharpening stones, but they're not too small in my opinion. They definitely are of the utmost quality, and this Japanese Gyuto is also of the utmost quality. HAP40 steel takes a nice razor edge. The reason I think there's an appeal to the Shapton Glass Stone 7 kit, besides obviously how well it sharpened the knife, is that if you got something like that, that's the only kit you're going to have to use. You don't need anything else from this point. I mean, you could get a leather strap, and I think that would be good, but the kit itself is all you need for sharpening. And you could even just strap on the stone. You could strap on the 30,000 grit at the end, and your edge would be totally fine. So, great sharpening kit, well worth my time. Very happy I got it. I'll be using this kit in the future with some other knives so we can see how it does. Thanks again for stopping by today, guys. We'll see you in the next video.